and her smile, standing right there in front of me in this sparkling rose touched my heart and my soul, diffused and recharged, peace once again. A scent frequent meeting as the whole atmosphere changed, enveloped in greeting as the morning awakens, and vanish and adore me with the jewels of your light. A soft and beautiful voice woke me up this morning.
So Om Shanti and a warm welcome to everyone. And so as you know, this evening we are very fortunate to have Sister Jayanti with us to share her thoughts on yesterday's Avyakt Murli. And so can we just give a warm welcome to Jayanti? Maybe wide for a clap. Welcome to those online as well. And just to ask, how many of you have never met Jayanti in the flesh, like on Zoom definitely, but actually live quite a few. Right, a lot on this side. Great. So, a special evening for all of you to have Jayanti with us. So I thought I would start with a very brief introduction, an official introduction and then a personal introduction, if that's okay. There are many titles, Jayanti. And so Sister Jayanti...
You can forget about the titles.
Oh, can I? Just a few, 3, 4. So Sister Jayanti is the additional administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris. She's also the regional director for Europe and the Middle East. And she's also the CEO for the Brahma Kumaris UK. And I think it's good to list all these titles because we just wonder how you manage, because you'll always look so fresh, tireless, light. And so I think for me, what I've really observed is just, Jayanti, your humility, your clarity, your depth of sharing, and your simplicity. And I think it's really nice to have a real live version of what Baba's telling us in the Murli. We do need practical samples and examples, so thank you for being that for all of us. And so we're going to start off with Jayanti sharing her thoughts on yesterday's Murli, and then we'll have some questions from myself, and then we'll open it up to questions from all of you. Okay? So over to you, Jayanti.
Thank you, Samantha, and lovely to see this group, which I haven't met. So I'm happy to be here, even if it's just for a short time now. I think contentment has been one of my favorite subjects. Whenever Baba's spoken about it, I've resonated with it very deeply. And it comes up quite frequently. And when you hear what Baba had to say about contentment yesterday, then you can see that it really is a very foundational aspect of our life in Brahman life. I suppose in Lokik life too, but especially in Brahman life. And so Baba firstly just talking about the value of contentment and how Baba was seeing the sparkle of contentment. And so it seems that contentment is a jewel that radiates light and spreads light everywhere. And Baba mentioning that with this one speciality, many other specialities come also. And so an indication of how important this is, because it'll help me develop many other qualities in my life too. And how, a very interesting sentence, Baba saying that it's a quality that makes you loved by God, it's a quality that makes you loved by others, but it's also a quality that you love to have for yourself. And so, true, if I'm content, then there's an inner state of stability that isn't there at any other time if there's anything that's creating upheaval or discontent within. And I've often seen that where there's even a slight bit of discontentment, then really what happens is that other things that are going on trigger reactions. And when there is a state of contentment, then that state of contentment means that you're able to absorb whatever else is going on and not get shaken by that. And so Baba reminding us of the value and the importance of this, and how if one person is content, then they spread that vibration of contentment around them, and their stage is able to impact many others also. And the contentment is visible from their face, the contentment is visible from their eyes, you can see that. And then Baba asking if we're constantly content. And this word that Baba used, sada, are you always content, constantly content? And in the days when we had meetings with Baba personally, then Baba would ask a question and wait for a response, and very often the response was sometimes, and Baba was never satisfied with that. Baba would push and push and push and bring the soul to a state of understanding where they began to nod their head and say, yes, Baba, this is what I want to be. I want to be constantly happy, constantly content, constantly whatever it is Baba was talking about. And so Baba again emphasizing this, that this word constant is a very important one within our own life. And it's true that if sometimes Baba spoke about happiness and power, contentment, and how it's not enough just to have it sometimes from time to time, but just to make sure that it's there continually. And it's a fact that if at times I feel powerful, but at times I don't feel powerful, then that's going to be the time that Maya finds a way to enter and bring me down. But if I can be stable in my stage of whether it's contentment or happiness or power, then I have the capacity to be able to deal with everything. And Baba's using this word swa-sthiti and parasthiti. And they both sound very similar, don't they? Well, parasthiti is problems, situations, difficulties, challenges. And swasthiti the inner stage of the self. And Baba giving us this very powerful guarantee that if I maintain my own inner stage with contentment, then that's going to give me the possibility of overcoming all problems and all situations that I'm having to deal with, and there's going to be victory. And so a very lovely promise from Baba that if you maintain your own inner stage, for sure, all the external problems are going to dissolve and you're going to be able to deal with all of them and go beyond it all. So I thought that was a very, very powerful promise from Baba that yes, definitely, if I do this, then this is the result. And Baba often does this. Baba often gives us different comments about, if you do this, this is what will happen. If you do that, this is what Baba will do for you. And again, the Murli was very much full of many of those other promises also. And something that's come up often in Sakar Murlis and also in Avyakt Murlis, again, Baba was commenting on how if I see something going wrong, if I see somebody else's reactions, then if I react also to them, then definitely two wrongs are not going to make a right. And maybe my intention is very good, and maybe my intention is to help them. But the way that it comes out, if my tone isn't right, if my motive isn't completely, absolutely clean, then of course it's going to come out with that roughness in my voice and the tone. And maybe the volume is too high, something or another. But that's going to indicate my own reactivity also. And Baba even labeled it as a trace of anger. And within that, Baba reminding us that, well, lust is one thing, but anger is the second big number enemy. And so just to be aware of how it is I deal with things, and sometimes if I try to help another understand or change, how often is it that you've actually been able to change another person? Anyone tried changing another person? I think we've all tried at some point or another, but it really doesn't work. And it's only when I change myself, then that becomes an example and an inspiration for others also. Otherwise, really, they're going to listen, but Baba even said that they'll probably be too scared to come near you in the future because you're going to be concerned that you're going to be correcting them, ticking them off and whatever. So don't try to make them change, but see if you can maintain your inner state of nothing but good wishes. Again, good wishes has been such a consistent theme through several Murlis all the time. You just see the track of that and how it seems to be that stage where I really have to come very, very clean. I have to make sure that really, not even for a moment, there's any other thought except good wishes and pure feelings, so that then that's able to reach another and help them move forward, because that is the only way that you can help them, not by correcting them or even making them aware that something's not quite right, but just simply having good wishes. And so there's a lot of cleaning to be done inside, to be able to get to that point where, and it applies to the fact that it's everyone that I have to have good wishes for. It's fine to have good wishes for my friend or my relative, but am I able to keep that stage of good wishes for everyone? Now that's what Baba's asking of us, to be able to maintain that. You know, come Christmas time, we'll be sending good wishes and pure thoughts and good feelings, good tidings. We'll be talking about all of these things. We'll be writing them in our messages and our cards and so on. But really, truly, to have a heart that's so clean that not even one individual is there for whom I have anything less than good wishes. Because even a drop of any other feeling is going to be poison, and it's going to interfere with my relationships with everyone else also. So really, just to have a heart that's absolutely clean. And Baba was speaking at some point about how we need to have sweetness in our attitude, sweetness in our vision towards others, sweetness in our language, sweetness in our words, so that then it's very natural, just nothing but good wishes. And Baba was saying that also, that stage of nothing but good wishes comes from that inner stage of contentment. And so can I develop that contentment to such a point where just constant, my natural nature is to be giving good wishes. And if I can do that, then yes, that's real service. And it's going to be helpful for everything. The atmosphere, my own reactivity is going to spoil the atmosphere. Even if I say that, oh, it doesn't really matter, I'm not bothered. But the fact that I see something and it causes waste thoughts in my mind, and I allow those waste thoughts to continue, then that's going to trigger the waste thoughts of others also. And so Baba very much reminding us of how the reaction of one isn't restricted to one, but the reaction then continues and it's shared out and it interferes with the whole atmosphere and the vibration of Baba's home. And so that stage where natural nature becomes one of contentment, which then leads to the sweetness that Baba wants us to have. And of course, sweetness is a word that we don't usually like, in the English language at least. Meetha in Hindi is much softer, but sweetness sometimes in English is sticky, and so it's cloying. But that's not what Baba means. Baba means that natural state in which there's love and easiness and lightness, and so that's what's happening, that sweetness in your inner state, your attitude and your vision, and so on. And Baba reminding us also that, I love that sentence where Baba said, what is the inheritance that Baba gives you? And the inheritance wasn't mukti, jivan mukti, and all the usual things that we think about, but Baba said to be like the Father. Baba's inheritance to you at this time in Sangam Yuga is Bap Saman. Become like the Father, and just like Brahma Baba and the example of Brahma Baba in so many different ways, the way he dealt with people, the way he dealt with situations, but always, always the number one soul following Srimad. And in particular, the one sentence that Baba wanted us to recognize and remember, because it comes up in the Murli, every single Murli. Be soul conscious and remember the Father. And so is that difficult? Why should that be difficult? It's your natural experience of love and connection with one. And so just remember that and follow the Father in this, because this is what the Father did all the time, just simply following Srimad in thoughts, words, and actions. And Baba was saying that if this is what you do, if you follow Srimad and you have victory in your thoughts, words, and actions, then yes, Baba's going to be giving you all blessings, and Baba's going to be making sure that yes, you have that inheritance of becoming like the Father. So very powerful, very beautiful Murli, and a reminder of who we are and what Baba has come to do, and how whatever we practice at this time is a preparation for the future. Now, all the things that Baba's talked about in the Sakar Murlis, we're seeing as a reality. Everything absolutely on the brink. Things can go this way and topple over, things can go that way, and you don't know when and how and what, and so suddenly and ever ready. And so the practice of being bodiless, always this excuse, I don't have time. And as soon as Baba said this, then I thought Baba was going to give us the example of a drink of water. When I need to take a drink of water, I'll stop and I'll make sure that I give myself that hydration. And so same thing. And of course, I don't remember whether this was a time before traffic control, but definitely traffic control has been a very, very valuable tool to be able to practice this regular stopping, pause at every hour, so that then you can practice being detached from the body, seeing the body, but that stage of being bodiless, where I'm not just thinking of Baba, but I'm so detached from the body that I can fly to Paramdham and be with Baba there, even for a few moments. And I know that when we practice this and we have that experience of being bodiless, even for a few moments, that stillness, that purity, that power allows us then to come back into action through the different consciousness. And the consciousness that Baba was asking us to have now was that of being the detached observer. Sit on the seat of being the detached observer, and then, yes, you can maintain your own inner stage of being content instead of getting into the upheaval of all the things that are going on within nature, within matter, within Maya, all those. And Baba uses the term a puppet show. When you see a puppet show, it's enjoyable, it's entertainment, it's no hardship, it's no distress. And so can I have such a stage that I become bodiless, go home, and when I come back down, I'm truly a detached observer, and everything is only entertainment. Not so easy, but everything comes with practice. And the other thing I'm very aware of is that if there's a specific goal that I set for myself, then I focus on that. My mind is drawn to that again and again. It's not a promise I'm making to anybody else. It's a promise I'm making to myself, that this is the stage I would really like to have. And if I focus on that stage, then I'm going to be able to have Baba's help, and I'll be able to achieve it also. And so if I practice this bodiless stage again and again and again, the more I do it, the easier it becomes, the more natural it becomes. But also then, the follow-up for the next 57 minutes is that I can sit here and watch all the games that are going on. And as I watch the games and I'm being entertained, really keeping that inner state of happiness with myself by being here on this stage of detached observer, then yes, I'll be able to pass through whatever are the challenges today, but it's also the preparation for all the challenges that are going to be coming. And sometimes when you see and hear what's going on in the world around us, right now, at this moment, nothing about the future, right now, you'll be able to see that, yes, it's this practice that will carry me through all the challenges, but it's also this practice that's going to help other people around me. It's going to create that vibration and that aura in which others also feel secure and safe. I asked Sudhaben was downstairs in Shantivan for just a few days, and we had a short conversation about the situation that's happening in her part of the world. And she said that the sisters, and she was mentioning sisters, but I'm sure there's a few brothers around too, but she mentioned how because of their faith in Baba and their own practice of all of Baba's teachings, she hasn't heard them complain about anything. They always say, whenever she calls them, everything's okay, Baba's looking after us, everything is fine. So that was very reassuring. But it just shows you how whatever has been a long-term practice for the soul, then whatever challenges come, yes, we're able to pass through those challenges. And Baba saying that, well, don't worry about the number of the beads of a rosary. You just make sure you're victorious, and Baba will find a space for you in the rosary. And so just make sure that you're keeping Baba's Srimat in mind, and with victory in little things today, then there'll be victory in big things whenever I have to face any of those big things. So a few points that I was touched by in the Murli today. And so handing over to Sam.
Thank you so much, Gentiben. As you were sharing, it just feels so easy. It was like a commentary, and I felt in Madhaban, everything feels attainable. And I just wanted to ask you, you mentioned having a goal or an aim that you can focus on, and that can inform your practice. So just to ask you, what goal or goals do you set for yourself, and every day are you revising that so that you kind of remain beyond all the ripples that happen in the drama?
The practice that I'm focusing on is, can I really put a full stop to whatever it is that's going on?
Yes.
You're engaged in one conversation, and that finishes, and then there's another situation, and another, and this keeps happening. And so really to be just present, rather than thinking about what it is that's happened before. But full stop to that, now on with the show, on with the next. And when you mentioned that there's a lot happening, well, I don't think I've been ever as busy as I am in Madhuban. Just so many things going on, and it's not even that you can focus on one thing and then deal with the next thing. Everything just comes onto your plate altogether. And so you just have to be very careful with your thoughts and, okay, this is what I'm doing now. Let me stay focused on this. That's finished. Okay, I'll do the next thing. And so not to let things hang on, but it's done, it's finished.
Nice, thank you. You know, Baba spoke about influence yesterday in the Murli, and you mentioned it just now, how even if like 95% of individuals are fine with us, but we tend to get affected by the souls that are discontent with us for whatever reason. And Baba even said that we know what they're like, we can even predict what they're going to say, but even then, we're taking sorrow. And so the question, I suppose, and for example, it can be things like, you know, and I know this in some cases where one soul's not talking to you for like 2 years, you can be in the same service space, and things like that, practical things, where, you know, the person completely ignores you. And how can you not, you know, and there is a residue of feeling, you know, why? And so the question is, what are some of the check-in points that we need to make to ensure that we are detached and we can keep giving good wishes in those kinds of situations? It's okay if it's a one-off and then after a few weeks you have a conversation and then it manages itself, but there are those situations which have been going on for a few years.
I think you just have to keep checking, is it possible for me to have good wishes for that soul? I think if I turn it around in that way, it makes a big difference. And I'm sure that most of the people here, or those watching and listening, for them also it is this thing that there's somebody around who's creating challenges for them, and it's not short term, but it's long term. But can I really do a clean out inside and just have only good wishes for them? And just as they're stuck in their pattern of behavior, can I also create this repeated pattern of behavior of sending good wishes, sending good wishes? Then at some point, whatever is the karma that's around, it has to get settled. It can't carry on till the end of the kalpa. But obviously there is some sort of karma there that I'm having to deal with it. And so can I just send good wishes, good wishes, good wishes?
Nice. And so why do you think it is that we, what's lacking within us that we do get influenced? What's some of the unmet needs that we haven't realized within ourselves, or we haven't met for ourselves, that we keep falling into the same sort of hole, if you like? Because I think on an intellectual level, we know that we have to give good wishes and maintain that. But what's the lack? Well, what is it that we're not realizing within ourselves? One, it's a karmic account, but what is it that we're not realizing deeply that allows us to keep, tripping up on this same, same stone or obstacle,
I know it's an answer that you've heard before probably, but really just being still here, stable, can I really practice this idea of I am that shining star, and see them also in that way? See them as that shining star. And one can also see the goodness that they have, because yes, there's this challenge that they keep posing for me, but there's also a lot that's good that's within that soul. And so can I again keep shifting my vision, see that shining star and the goodness in that shining star? Baba spoke about how are we able to see ourselves in the way Baba is seeing us? Baba sees us with that highest vision. So maybe the starting point is, can I hold that vision for myself? And then I'll be able to see another with that vision also.
Thank you. Lovely. Just a question that's come in here. I think I'll share it now. But the question is, what does Baba mean when he says natural nature?
I've heard people use this term in a negative way, and Baba sometimes commented on it. We say, well, it's my nature. I'm impatient. Well, that's how I am, so you take it or leave it. It's like I'm making an excuse for myself and giving myself permission to carry on like that. And Baba's saying that, well, whatever are the Rajo Pradhan or the Tamo Pradhan tendencies, this isn't my original natural nature. This is my second part of the cycle, natural nature. And it's not original. It's come later on. It's acquired. And so can I really go back to the original state of the soul? And when Baba used to make us practice the 5 forms, and that was very, very helpful at that time. And of course, Baba gives us different tools, and then we use them for a short time, then we forget about them. But again, yesterday, and today's Murli actually, today's Murli, Baba was talking about, do you remember that you were deities? So can I remember my starting point in the cycle? That is my natural nature. And so the state of the deities where nothing pulls them. They've got everything, but it's not just that there's abundance out there, but it's happened because there was that attention in Sangam Yuga. And so now, what is the original natural nature of the deity soul? It's goodness, it's love, it's truth, it's joy, it's purity, it's contentment. Nothing can pull me or distract me. There's nothing more that I want. I have everything that not just I need, but that I wanted. All my desires have been fulfilled, so I don't know what it is to have the thought of desire, ignorant of what is desire. So that's the state that is the natural, original state that we had for a long, long period of time. And so can I come back to that natural nature of goodness? Because that is who I am at the start of the cycle, the origin of the cycle.
Beautiful. And so the theme was the jewel of contentment, and Baba always gives us so many titles of self-respect.
Your voice is getting distorted a little bit.
So there are so many different titles of self-respect that Baba gives us. So yesterday was the jewel of contentment. So the question is, out of all the titles of self-respect that you have heard from Baba through the Murlis, would you say that the practice of this title that Baba gave yesterday, Jewel of Contentment, has served you the most? Or is there another title that you feel has served you?
As I say right at the start, it's contentment has been a very important quality that my attention gets drawn to frequently. And it's a question I ask myself, is there anything that I want? Is there anything that I need? And truly, I can't think of what else. Baba has given literally, spiritually and physically, absolutely everything. So that is one title that I use as a checkpoint for myself very often. But one other one that I've also loved very much is this expression, the Hindi term Sikilade. But it carries that feeling of Baba has been looking for you and you were lost, and after a long, long time, Baba has found you again. You found Baba, but Baba has found you. And it touches my heart, that it gives me that sense that Baba was looking for me, and now that we meet each other, there's that resonance and connection and togetherness. So I love this particular expression. We hear it every day in the Murli. Long lost and now found children. But it is a very special one and I love it.
You know, Baba was saying also that there's one thing that he says every day, and if we just practice this one line, everything else would fall into place. And we all know it, right? Baba says every day, consider yourself to be a soul and remember me. And we know that's the essence of all Gyan. But the practice is not always there. It's sometimes, Baba says, constantly. And so how to really begin to increase that practice more? Because I think we want to and we know it, but there's a delay.
You know, there's something about not just thinking about something, but writing something down. And it's like you think something, but then a little while later it flies away. But you think about something and you write it down, and it stays in a deeper way within the consciousness. When I'd be translating for Dadi, I wouldn't have a chance to write things, but very often if there were things that really struck me, then I'd make time to actually sit and write the things that I remembered from what she had said. And I must have many, many notebooks filled with that. And I don't often have time to go back and read them. But the fact that I heard it, and I even repeated it in translation, but then I wrote it down, and a lot of it then stayed here. And so I think with soul consciousness, I know it sounds very simple, very basic, but it was a practice that helped me hugely, writing down how many minutes I was soul conscious in the past hour. And it was a shock, because you realize how little soul consciousness there is, even though it's so simple. But the fact that I've written it down, and it's there for me to see in black and white, it's a terrific boost to upgrade my remembrance for the next hour. And so I would recommend that. Just even for a short while, try it, and you will be shocked that there's actually very little soul consciousness for most of us. I'm sure there are some who are really focused on that and are working on it a lot, but I think generally we talk about it and we do practice it, but not to the extent that we really need to.
Can you just break that down a bit more? Like practice as we get up by my soul, as I drink my tea, that level of practice?
The feeling that I'm operating from here, not here, but here. And so that state, when I'm speaking, I'm a soul, but I think for me it's the feeling, and that's something you can cultivate, and it's a very nice feeling. And so the surprise is that although it is such a nice feeling, it really makes you feel very good, but it slips away.
Thank you. There was one line in the Murli yesterday when Baba said, the stage of contentment, and you mentioned it when you were sharing earlier, the stage of contentment is always victorious on an external stage. So the question is, a bit of a funny question, do you think it's possible to be lulled into a false stage of contentment? You know, everything's going quite well, where the setup is as we like it, perhaps I'm serving in a place where I'm alone and I've got good hands, or I have personal freedom, many different reasons for a feeling of contentment. So, or would you say that that's a result of our good karma? So things are going well, we're very content. Is it a false sense of security, a false sense of contentment, or is it that my karma's good?
It happens very often that somebody's in a comfort zone and they're saying, well, I'm content. Baba wants me to be content, so I'm content. But in fact, although if you're using this word contentment, then there's another word, satisfaction. I'm content with where I am now, but I'm also aware that I need to make further effort to reach my destination. And my destination is when I'm totally satisfied. So contentment is at the moment, but that state of total satisfaction when I have really reached that karmatic stage is something else. And so yes, very definitely, comfort zones are something in which we feel it's okay, everything is fine. Daddy used to say, if somebody says, I'm fine, I'm okay, there's something not quite right. And of course, if you're complaining, that's not right either. But to be able to know that it's okay, but I do know that there are things I need to work on and sort out further along the line. And maybe I've become too comfortable with people around me, they've got used to me, I've got used to them, so I'm not really making that effort for transformation that I need to make. Another sentence that Baba spoke yesterday, see your own stage and see time, swa and samya. So often the Hindi words go together. So am I seeing myself and the speed of my effort, and am I also seeing the speed of time? And for sure, the speed with which time is moving is very fast. But is my own speed of transformation equally fast? And so if I've got my eye on my transformation, then I'll know exactly what's going on. Then it won't be that I'll say, I'm fine, it's okay, everything's going well. But I'll know what it is I need to sort out more.
Lovely, thank you. Somebody asked a question actually, or wanted this question put forward, and the question was about effort. And the question was something like, what is the turning point where effort over a long period of time then becomes our experience? Because sometimes we feel that we're making a lot of effort, but it still isn't quite natural. So what is that point in which we know that, okay, now it feels kind of easy? What's the the foundation for that. Does it make sense? Yeah? So that it just sort of happens.
I think if I've given attention to something for a while, and now I'm not having to really think about it, but it's coming out naturally. Say, for example, patience. It's a good thing to look at. And I know that I'm impatient. I know that I want things to happen for me now, and they're not happening. And maybe it's not just with me, but maybe my impatience is with others. They're not so quick as I want them to be. So I'm reminding myself, it's okay. Things are going according to the right time, of 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 time. Getting into upheaval because somebody else is slow or things aren't working out as quickly as I would like them to. So there is a point where it comes out naturally instead of you having to say, okay, hold on, don't think like this, think like this. But now it's become natural.
So the more we keep repeating that, then after a while it just becomes second nature.
You have to give it that attention.
Yeah.
You have to give it that, not tension, Baba plays around with that also, not to get tense about it, but I know that this is something that I need to give attention to. And so I'm giving it that attention. And now it's become natural. And it's happening in a very automatic, natural way.
I just wanted to bring up something that was in the Murli 2 Sundays ago about the philosophy of karma. It is connected to yesterday's Murli as well. And Baba was talking about 2 powers, the power of tolerance, where we're very good, we tolerate, and we don't say anything at that point in time. But then later, we don't have the power to accommodate, and we find ourselves sharing whatever happened with 2, 3, or 4 people. And then, of course, Baba said, you need both. You need the power to tolerate and the power to accommodate. Can you just explore other powers that work in the same way? Because sometimes you give attention to one side. For example, I might think I've got to tolerate, yes, it's fine. And then there's a residue of that. And then I find a week later I'm having to tell somebody, get it off my chest, because it's still bothering me. So can you give examples of other powers that work in the same way, where we focus on one half and yet we don't get the full benefit of the powers that we should? Is it?
I'm thinking again of the 2 opposites that come in the image of the 8 powers. And on one side there's tolerance, and on the other side there's the power to face. And I see how those 2 also work in balance. And you don't always know how to tolerate, and where it is, then you have to actually stand up for your principles or your beliefs and face the situation. And in that case, for me, there is a very specific point which tells me which way to go. And if it's a question of personal choice, I prefer chapati and you prefer rice, and there are many people who have this preference, it's fine. And so if there's 2 people living together, am I going to make rice and chapatis? Well, probably not. But if I can make chapati one day and rice the next day, then one day it's my choice, the other day it's your choice, and it's okay. So when it comes to little things like this, to adjust and tolerate is not a big deal. It's okay. In fact, I do need to adjust and tolerate. But the other side, where when I need to face something, it's if I'm being challenged about any one of my principles. Then it's not a question of let me adjust with this one, whether it's vegetarian diet or even more importantly, celibacy. It's not a question of, well, it's okay, it's your choice, and tomorrow you change your mind. I think it's at that time that I can't just say, I'm going to tolerate this. I have to say that I need to have the power to be able to face up to it and to do what I need to do. And I'm talking about basic things, but it can happen as you go along in Brahman life. And truth, where is it that honesty is absolutely vital? And where is it that, well, it's not such a major factor, and so it's okay, I can tolerate this. But there will be situations where it's absolutely vital. And so I need to be aware of that. So I've often seen these two as being balancing each other in a certain way.
Thank you. Just open it up to the floor if anybody has a question before we have meditation. Does anybody have a question? If you don't want to be on camera, you can write it down and give it to Sona, who's just there on the side. Judy has... Do you want to come to the... She wants to write it down. Or can they say the questions from there, from their seat? Then they're not on. Judy, you can say the question from there, but the mic's at the front. She doesn't want to be on camera. Could somebody give the mic to her? They're not on camera, so you can come to the front, Judy. You won't be filmed.
Shanti, could you give some yuktis to move from acceptance to contentment?
I'm sorry, wasn't clear.
Could you please give some yuktis to move?
Yuktis for?
To move from...
Could you give some yuktis to move from acceptance to contentment?
Yuktis for acceptance.
To contentment. From acceptance to contentment.
Okay. Yes, I know what you're talking about. There's the state where I accept it, but it's still, it's not what I really want. And so I'm accepting it, but it's a little bit of forced medicine. And so can I shift that and say, this is the way drama is, and at the moment, this is what drama is saying, what drama is wanting, but what I'd like is now to just leave it with drama and just come back to my own inner state of contentment. That works. A scene of drama doesn't carry on forever. Whatever is a scene today, at some point it's going to change and the direction will be different. So just to remind myself of that and just to say it's going to be fine.
Is anyone else? Okay. While you're thinking of your question, I just have one more question, gentlemen. And it was about, say, Murli 2 Sundays ago. And it was about this aspect of mistakes.
Of what?
Mistakes, understanding that a mistake has been made, but not imbibing it, not allowing yourself to lose your happiness. And so I suppose the question is really, I think we have imbibed people's weaknesses over time. And so there's a bit of a blockage, and maybe you've already answered it to a certain extent. There's a bit of a blockage. And so just the steps to restore the heart, the steps to clean the heart out if we have been holding something that's happened over, a long period of time.
What has helped me is to remember that I've made mistakes. Yeah. And when I have that recognition, here's somebody who's made a mistake, but I've had many mistakes in my life, and Baba's forgiven me, the Dadis still continued to give me love, and that carried me and helped me. And so, can I do the same for the other? It's what I've received in my life. Now it's my turn also to be able to accept them and just give love And that's going to take away whatever is the imprint that's been created in my heart, and it's going to then be much easier to have a good relationship with them. Otherwise, their mistake is creating a block that's not allowing me to move, but to be able to remember what I've done and then give the return to Baba. Baba, forgive me, and Baba gave me love. Now I have to do that for others too.
Thank you.
One of the things about mistakes that I've made is that it's taught me a lot of humility and compassion. And if I don't recognize the mistakes I've made, I think probably that's a false situation.
Yeah.
That there must be mistakes that we've all made. I don't believe that there's anyone who hasn't made a mistake. But when I recognize that, then it really takes away the ego and it calms the soul down.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And just a very last question, which we always tend to ask in Madhaban, I noticed, in terms of, Baba gives lots of advice, but what's your advice? The theme behind is the power of togetherness, connection to the seed for the whole season, this year, next. But what would you say as a last comment in terms of us moving forward from sometimes to always, Sada, as Baba has said? What's one or two things that you would like to leave us with?
In terms of togetherness?
Yeah.
Just the sweet feeling that we've been together through the whole cycle. And so this is my family. And yes, we've been up and down through all the situations of the Copper Age and the Iron Age, but Baba's again creating that bond of love that is going to hold us together in the kingdom, in the Golden and Silver Age. And so when I have that sense of belonging to this family, then that togetherness is a very sweet feeling. I remember when I came to Baba consciously, as a child is different, when I came to Baba consciously, there was such a sense of recognition and a feeling of belonging. The Lokik family just was away from my consciousness completely. And it was this family, and of course I had the good fortune of seeing the dadis and being with the dadis, but that sense of coming together to my family was so strong, and it still is today.
Thank you so much, Jentaben, for sharing this evening, and perhaps we can share our appreciation. Thank you. So now meditation, 7 to 7:30. Okay.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.